Whether you're new to R6 Esports, a returning fan, or an ever-present current follower, it's safe to say that after the most recent SI final, that Siege, competitively, and in general, is back, baby. The most recent Six Invitational captured its biggest ever audience, peaking at, during the grand final in Map 5, of over 500,000 concurrent viewers, with the previous record being around 320,000. With W7M proving, in my opinion, that they are the greatest ever team in Rainbow Six Siege history. Some of you may have watched it via Jinxie and his co-stream.
No! 3 versus 1! Is this the moment where we can crown a new champion, a new dynasty to be created?
Or perhaps you saw on Twitter the fantastic behind the scenes look of Pengu, Xenox and Guz, and the passion they displayed in those final moments before W7M won the title with their casting.
Nade on the other side, wanting to be that annoying brother, and Handy will fall through the hatch. 3 versus 3.
And it's the smokes that are stalling out this push, so W7M have to wait for their moment. It's all directed to the...
No! 3 versus 1! Is this the moment where we can crown a new champion, a new dynasty to be created? And yes, we will! Yes, we will! W7's last dance will end in a coronation as the dynasty begins with 2 trophies and now a hammer. They cement themselves as one of the greatest of all time.
Or perhaps you're in the crowd just like me, or watch the madness ensue over those iconic 5 maps on the main Rainbow Six Siege stream.
Map for FaZe, it's down to Handy. Philippe Pox goes hunting. Kid not with him. He's not. Handy for FaZe wins the opening map of the Six Invitational. Drop down KDS, getting by the kill. He has to really give up. Are you kidding me? Listen to Brazil. With a lot of time still remaining, but he's spotted shot. FaZe take the map and put themselves in the best position to now maybe take this grand final. To pull the pistol out at that point, and maybe again, but the knife shuts down. We are going a distance. Versus 1. Is this the moment where we can crown a new champion, a new dynasty to be created? And yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Whether you watched the most recent SI or didn't whatsoever, you have come to the right place, because I'm going to break down what the Six Invitational is, the previous winners of it and the story behind it, and why everyone wants to get their hands on this hammer. Not this hammer in particular, because this is a replica and it's way smaller, but the real hammer itself. 2017 was the year that the Six Invitational first took place. It had 2 iterations of it. One took place on PC, and the winners were the North American side of a continuum with 2 faces you may recognise, but they do look a little bit different, I'm going to be honest. One, if you watch Twitch, you may recognise King George, even though he doesn't have his iconic cap on. The other you may recognise is Troy/Canadian, but he also looks a bit different, because I didn't actually know that that man didn't have a beard. I assumed he was probably born with it, to be honest. The second iteration that took place in 2017 for the Six Invitational was competing on Xbox One. The victors of that were Elevate, with a familiar face if you watch the most recent Six Invitational. It had Laxing competing in it, and he also, interestingly, went on after this tournament to compete on PC, making the switch over from console. 2018 saw the Six Invitational evolve to being just a strictly PC tournament. The winners of this one were Penta, and they may have a few recognisable names inside that team. They had a very young Fabian, Pengu, and also Sharte. And if you're a big fan of Rainbow Six Siege and watch it on Twitch, you'll see that all three of those players to this day still remain actively playing Rainbow Six Siege and stream themselves on Twitch as well. 2019 saw G2 lift the title for the first time for the Six Invitational. G2 had acquired the old Penta roster but made a couple of changes. Fabian, Pengu and Gaga still remained, meaning that they have been the first players to win 2 SIs. They also won them back to back. But let's not forget, they did still bring in some new players, and as the saying goes, if you want to win, bring a Finn. And they did that by bringing Kanto Ricchetti into the side. That winning streak for the EU side of Penta/G2 did not continue. In 2022, North America raised that hammer for the second time. This time, it was Space Station Gaming's turn. They actually overcame a 2-1 map deficit and ended up beating Ninjas in Pyjamas, otherwise known as NIP, 3-2 to lift that hammer. 2021 saw the first time that the nation of Brazil lifted the trophy, and it was NIP's time to shine. After losing the grand final in 2022 to Space Station Gaming 3-2, they managed to overcome Team Liquid in a 3-2 victory, once again going deep all the way to map 5, but this time coming out on the right side of the result, securing the first ever Six Invitational title for a Brazilian side. 2022 was time to hand the title of the Six Invitational winners back to North America, with TSM coming all the way through last chance qualifiers to go on to win the title up against the Russians of Team Empire 3-1 in the final. And the GOAT himself, Mr. Matt, otherwise known as Achieved, as you can see here, actually got this off him at the Major Copenhagen Major, one of the most lovely blokes I've met and T1 players ever. And yeah, they managed to win that final, and they also have in there, you might recognise, a young Bolo, who if you do follow Rainbow Six Siege, I'm pretty sure you'll know who that individual is. 2023 February last year saw G2 win their second ever Six Invitational title, with ex-player Fabian at the helm, which technically made him the 3-time champion, the only player to have 3 SI titles under his belt. Again, this team features some players you might recognise, young gunner Benjamaster and the Scottish King himself, Doki, and they went on to beat W7M in the grand final. And that brings us fully up to speed with the 2024 Six Invitational champions being W7M, securing themselves, as, in my opinion, as probably the greatest team to ever grace Rainbow Six Siege. And that's probably the reason why you may be watching this video, or it may be what piqued your interest in the Six Invitational. That team, W7M, as you can see in this image here, went on to win, as this one here, they managed to win the Copenhagen Major, then they won the Atlanta Major, and then they secured a dramatic map 5 6-1 comeback against FaZe, which is just quite frankly, being there and sitting there in the crowd was one of the most epic things I have ever witnessed, not only in esports, but sports in all. So that is a whistle-stop tour of the history of the Six Invitational, and also telling you a little bit about what's happened most recently, which hopefully got you interested in Rainbow Six Siege esports. But the next question lies is, how do teams qualify to take part in the Six Invitational? Throughout the calendar year of Rainbow Six Siege, which runs February to February, with 2 majors taking place throughout the year, followed up by the grand finale of the Six Invitational, teams from around the world will compete against each other to earn SI points. Recently, we've just had this update coming in from Blast, who run the competitive side of Rainbow Six Siege, in which we've seen less teams qualifying for the majors. The majors are the 2 competitions that are played usually in May and November, in which teams will earn points, and at the end of that November major, the teams with the most points throughout the year will be invited to take part in the Six Invitational. So the 20 teams that will be taking part in the majors to earn up those points will be split across a number of regions, with 4 teams coming from the EUL League, 4 teams from the North American League, 4 teams from the Brazilian League, 2 teams from the Japanese League, which has dropped down from 3, 2 teams from the Korean League, which has dropped down from 3 to 2, 1 team from LATAM, also dropping by 1 team from the Asia region, also dropping by 1, and then 1 team from OCE, and 1 team from the MENA region. So that is quite a lot of information to take in. I am going to break down the different regions and how they work in a later video, along with, as the new seasons start, highlighting some teams and why you might want to choose to support them, and also the teams that are usually quite exciting within those regional leagues as well. So do not fret, that content is on the way, but for this moment we are only going to be focusing on the Six Invitational. So as mentioned previously, throughout the year 2 majors will take place in May and November. To qualify for the said majors, we went through how many teams qualify to a major in the last little segment. You will gain regional points based on your regional leagues. As you can see here, first place gets you 100 points, all the way down to 8th getting you 65 points. Upon qualifying to those majors, your performance at the major will also earn you some points. As you can see here, you gain a larger amount of points from qualifying to the major. So it really has sort of shifted lately. For this past SI, you didn't earn as many points for your performance at the major. So it is now rewarding the teams that do better at the majors. To give you a sort of visualization of what that looks like, here on my left hand side, well, right hand side because it's reversed obviously, we can see the teams that qualified for the 2024 Six Invitational. We had 20 teams qualify. You might see down here that there are sort of teams with the same positioning. That is just quite simply how it works, because they're on the same number of points. The position gets extended a little bit, which is why you don't see the number going up to the full 20, which can sometimes be confusing. But this is just to sort of visualize and give you a sort of taste of what it may look like after that November major has finished. As you can see, 20 teams in total qualifying for the Six Invitational. Currently, it's not actually decided how many teams will be qualifying for the Six Invitational in 2025. The reason why we don't quite yet have that information yet is because in the past there have been 16 teams that qualify points wise, and then they have included last chance qualifiers for the Six Invitational. The last chance qualifiers are for those teams that have missed out and not acquired enough points to be in the number of teams required to enter SI. That is basically a last chance saloon, a do or die moment for teams from each region to compete to try and make it in those last chance qualifier spots for SI. The reason why we don't know yet is because recently at the Year 9 season reveal that took place in Sao Paulo during the grand final of the Six Invitational, Ubisoft announced that the last chance qualifiers are now back for the Six Invitational. For this one that previously happened, we only saw the 20 teams with the most points qualify. So whether or not Ubisoft will extend it to 24 teams, keep the original 20 teams, and then 4 teams through last chance qualifiers, or if it'll drop back down to 16 and then we'll have 4 teams come through the last chance qualifiers, has yet to be announced. Just to let you know, all the graphics that we've used today with all that information I will also put in the description below if you want to navigate yourself to those pages and do a little bit more digging yourself. So that brings us to the end of this whistle stop tour of hopefully to the new people taking interest in Rainbow Six Siege Esports, or to those who just wanted to refresh their memory and learn something maybe they didn't know already, to an end. But just before I go, we do have this wonderful graphic here supplied by Rainbow Six Esports' Twitter account, which has announced where those 2 majors will take place to compete for those points to get themselves to the Six Invitational in 2025. The first of which will be taking place in Manchester in May. The second will be taking place in November in Montreal. with the Six Invitational of 2025 taking place in the US of A, and the 2026 Invitational will be taking place in France. I will be attending the one in Manchester, and it's going to be absolutely cracking. And maybe I'll see you there. And if I do, please make sure to stop by and say hello. And I will see you guys in the next video. There's plenty more informative R6 esports content coming your way, or me just talking about what teams I'm looking forward to seeing and all the upcoming stage ones across all the regions. So see you in the next video, guys. Have a fantastic one, and I'll catch you soon. And don't be shy to get around it and get amongst it. Up the siege, baby!